Thank you, Mr. Duff. Leaves us with just over a minute per caucus, and we begin with the government. Mr. O'Toole?
Yes, thank you. Thanks very much for your presentation. And we have heard a number of different points of view on the issue of student and the importance of the double cohort. And I guess you'd have to admit that the minister is very committed. Diane Cunningham is very committed. In fact, some would say she sort of overstepped her authority by committing it another $50 million.
Well, she committed that, but Ecker has not suggested that money will be forthcoming.
Making a point that I think the minister is committed, and you can refute her statement and the statement of the Premier, every willing and qualified student. Let's put it to you this way: as a parent of 5 children, I think there is a fair amount of responsibility to look at that whole aspect of the ability, the affordability. But even what you said is sort of doesn't really full through. Meaning, you're saying that tuition deregulation is a barrier, really. That's what you said in the first part of your introduction, that the increasing tuition was a financial barrier. Yet now we've got all this double cohort, everybody's going, the numbers are up, the penetration numbers have gone from 12% to 25%.
Quickly, sir.
And so I hear what you're saying. It's an extremely important investment, and it's an investment in you. So I think, there has to be a shared responsibility,
Well, what I would suggest to you is that any money that's come through from this government for the double cohort has been very late in the game. So it's going to be a very difficult stretch to hire faculty in about 5 or 6 months and build the spaces that are required.
Mr. Duff finish.
If you don't mind just finishing. And with respect to deregulation, I don't think it's an issue of shared responsibility. Post-secondary education is a requirement in our society to become a middle-income earner, and that opportunity should be available to everyone regardless of their financial circumstances. We should pay for our education through a progressive system of taxation after graduation.
Thank you, and we move to the official opposition, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your presentation. This is a government document doing business in Ontario, and these numbers are old now, but it proudly states how our tuition fees are dramatically lower than the U.S. and the great advantage that is. That was before the fee increase, the dramatic fee increases. I was caught by your comment here, and I remember the government election platform in 1999 was that we are going to have tuition fees cover roughly 35% of the cost, because that's fair and equitable and affordable. I now gather it's dramatically higher than that, and I think you quoted a number. Why would it have been fair and equitable at 35% in 1999, but why would they have allowed it to get to, what was the number you quoted?
It's on average 41%, but at some institutions as much as 50%. And that's a great question, I think, that we should pose to our government, because the fact of the matter is that they've consistently overachieved with respect to shifting the responsibility from the public sector to the private sector for funding post-secondary education, shifting it from public to government dollars to onto the backs of students. But just to come back to your point in the United States, the fact is that the United States system isn't less accessible than ours. At most state colleges, tuition fees are actually quite comparable, and average student debt in the United States is quite comparable to what students are graduating with here. The fact is that our system thrives by an investment of public dollars, unlike that which is offered in the United States. But we need to have a universally accessible system to have a flourishing economy, in my opinion.
Thank you. We move to the third party, Mr. Christofferson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your excellent presentation. You clearly know your stuff. Just to get at the root of the government's mindset, I want to take you back a bit to the Millennium Scholarships. In particular, this message is for anyone who happens to be watching, who's either thinking of going to university themselves or they're the parent or grandparent of someone who's going to be going to university. If you could just take a second to outline exactly how the $3,000, and there's only a $1,000 benefit, and then this government's $65 million ahead at the expense of students.
Well, essentially, and thanks for that question, essentially the Millennium Scholarship Foundation provided a grant of up to $3,000.
That's from the feds.
From the federal government to students in each of the provinces. But in Ontario, it is duplicated funding students were already receiving from the provincial government for loan remission. So what that meant was, because it was duplicating an existing program, the provincial government was saving what we've discovered is $65 million. Now, under the Act for the Millennium Scholarship Foundation, that money was supposed to be reinvested in the public education sector. But obviously the goal of the Millennium Scholarship Foundation supposedly was to reduce student debt. This government then took the money and used it to underwrite existing infrastructure costs and existing programs in the education sector, and then pocketed the difference, which is probably around $30 million. So frankly, I'd like to see some accountability, and I think you would too.
Thank you very much. Well
Thank
done.
you, Mr. Duff. We appreciate it, and
Point of order, I must clarify, point of order, with your indulgence.
listening.
The federal Canada student loan is not underwritten, no, he's giving wrong information, is not underwritten
Well,
by the
it's-
federal government.
it's
and
arguable.
the provincial student loan is. So you should start telling the truth. of these-
Point of privilege. I think he
That's the
should be
point.
directed by you to take that
I'm
back.
correct, I'm
Please
correcting
withdraw
some
that,
information that's
Mr.
wrong.
Apologize.
Mr. O'Toole.
Apologize.
Mr. O'Toole,
Information is wrong.
please stop.
As a student, he should know that.
Mr. O'Toole,
As a student, I've done my homework. Thank you.
thank you,
You
Mr.
haven't.
Appreciate
I'm
your
disappointed.
presentation.
You're
Mr.
probably-
O'Toole, enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Duff.
you.
Appreciate your input.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Don't like me.